are gonna think, fuck, finally somebody just fucking said it. It is extremely late at night, but I just had an idea as I was reading my next book. This is a second chance author for me, so why not give a very honest and in-depth review as I read the book. There will be spoilers in this review, and I kind of just want to go over, as I'm reading the book every single night. I don't know how many nights it's going to take me to read. I'm currently on page 75, but I've had a lot of problems with one of her books. She's a very beloved dark romance writer, and her name is H D Carlton. I've not been a fan of everyone's beloved book, which is Haunting Adeline, the cat and mouse duet. This is a continuation of it. It is her newest one, which is Phantom. Something drew me to this book. I don't know what it was, but something drew me in and made me want to read it. So I've decided that instead of fighting that and, you know, making sure that I'm sticking with my mood reader-esque thing here, I would pick it up and I would read it. I'm on page 75 right now. When I get to page 100, I will start discussing the book a little bit more in detail. I can tell you right now that this is a mafia romance. It does, as I said, take place in the same house that Haunting Adeline and I guess Haunting Adeline was set in. The same manor, the same family. Gigi, who, if we have all read the book, we are familiar with Gigi's diary. This is her chronicalizing her relationship with Ronaldo. I was really drawn to this. I don't know why, as I said, I don't know why I was drawn to it, but I've decided that I'm gonna give it a go. Let's just see what happens. Let's just see where we're getting at. And honestly, if my opinion of her has changed, you know, after reading this book, maybe I'll pick up another one. I'm just gonna give an honest review. As a dark romance reader, as a dark romance lover, I'm going to give an honest review on something that I'm drawn to, and I'm gonna give H D Carlton a second chance. So when I get to page 100, I'll update y'all on what's happening in the book. Again, this will be a full-blown spoiler review of Phantom by H D Carlton. That's not something that you want to hear about, that's completely fine, but I feel like I've never done one of these before. I've never done a reading vlog slash live reaction slash live review with spoilers before. This is a new thing for me, but I'm excited, and yeah, let's just see how this goes. I'll check in 25 pages. So I'm almost on page 100, so let's talk about the first like 100-ish pages of this book. A little bit of what I know about the book so far. We have Genevieve, or Gigi, who is actually Adeline from Haunting Adeline's grandmother. Her and her husband John live in the Parsons Manor, the same setting as Haunting Adeline. It is it's definitely different than Haunting Adeline for sure. It's not as horrid. Sorry, that's a really rude word to say. I'm so aware. My opinions on Haunting Adeline are I'm in the minority. I never considered Haunting Adeline a dark romance ever since I read it, to the point where I don't have any desire to read the second book, Haunting Adeline. As a romance reader, I feel like I know the ins and outs of what a dark romance book is and what a dark romance book isn't. A dark romance book has certain elements to it that make it a romance, while dark romance has like consensual non-consent, fear play, knife play, all kinds of things that people deem problematic. But the whole point of a dark romance is, while these things are rather extreme to a point, the main thing about these things is that there is a consent level. Haunting Adeline doesn't actually have any consent in it, so that's why I don't deem it a dark romance. Again, my opinion is mine, and I will never try to change the opinion of anyone else. I'm not going to argue about this to anyone just because it's my opinion, and everybody has their own opinion about something. Haunting Adeline and H D Carlton, they're a lot of people's favorite book slash author, and I will never ever be a person to criticize anyone based on what they want to read or what they love to read or what they love, period. I just have the opinion that in order to make a dark romance book a romance, both parties have to be consenting to the act of any of the acts they're doing. Even though it's a stalker romance, Haunting Adeline, to me, is a woman who developed Stockholm Syndrome and fell in love with her abuser. There was no consent until about 75% of the book. There's nothing about Haunting Adeline in the first 70 to 75% that was Adeline actually wanting to interact with the main character, the main male character. I think his name is Zaid. I can't remember his name. Zaid Meadows? I think that's his name. It's an opinion that I hold that I will never change. Nobody will be able to make me change my mind on that front. And I am also not going to attempt to persuade anybody to think the way that I think. As I said, I'm in the minority, and I'm okay with being in the minority. But that is actually one of the reasons why I wanted to read Phantom. One of the things that interested me about Haunting Adeline was the diary entries from Adeline's grandmother, Gigi. And now that we're getting the full story, I literally was just sitting here reading, and I was like, this is a dark romance. So far, this is what a dark romance is. So we have Gigi, who's married to John. They have a daughter, Serafina. Serafina is 13. Gigi, as of right now where I'm in the book, has just turned 35 years old. Her husband built her Parsons Manor, which is the very gothic manor of her dreams. It's haunted as well. She sees apparitions. She sees demon-like figures in the home. They just live with her now. They live with her in there. Many people died during the construction of the home, so that's why she feels the house is haunted. John has developed a very severe gambling problem and has gambled away the family's money, all of it. He is currently working to get it back up, but because he gambled all the money away, he has gathered the interest of some mafia men. And in comes the stalker of the stalker romance, Ronaldo. I believe he is the enforcer, so he goes around and does a lot of the dirty work. But he goes by Parsons Manor one day to kind of take a look at John, see if he can kind of glean any information, and ends up seeing Gigi writing in her journal in the front window, and immediately we all know what happened. He became enraptured. He has to have her. He begins showing up every single day. She sees him and she's immediately freaked out, obviously. Who wouldn't be? There's a man watching her. But as the days go on and on and on, and she continues to see him, she continues to just watch her, she becomes intrigued, obviously, and she starts looking for him. She starts looking to see if he's watching her. And then he comes into the house. And all he does when he's in the house is he just gently touches her cheek. She tries talking to him. He will not answer her. She tries to ask what his name is. Nothing. He just touches her cheek very, very gently and then leaves. And he does this repeatedly until she's literally out of her mind. So she's right now in this book, she's just confronted him and she's just out of her fucking mind. She's like, I need you to tell me your name. Like, tell me your name. And he just smiles at her. He just smirks at her like, you know, an asshole, right? And so she's like, forget it. She gets a knife and she puts the knife to his throat. And she goes, if you don't tell me what your name is, I'm going to slit your throat and then I'm going to call the police. They'll believe me. You're an intruder. He doesn't say anything. And she says, what do you want if you don't want me? And then he finally, that sparks him to speak. And he tells her, what exactly did he say? Hold on. I have it here. So what he says is, so she says, you don't want me, so what do you want? And he answers her with, I want you so badly, it hurts to breathe without you near. He whispers softly, finally gracing me with his voice. So she's the first time she's heard his voice. For all her bravado, for all her talk, she is like stunned. She's speechless. She doesn't know what to say. She doesn't know what to do. He's finally said something to her and now she's like, what the fuck do I do? She's asking why. Like, why do you want me? And he doesn't really have a strict answer. He basically tells her that, like, you know, ever since like he saw her, she's possessed all the air in his lungs and all his heart and all that stuff. Basically the things that, you know, generally morally gray fictional men say. to woo the woman. And then he so politely asked her for a kiss. Now, something came to my brain. It was just so outside of everything else. Something came to my brain. If y'all have ever seen The Simpsons, yeah, there's a character named Artie Ziff. And there's an episode where they're flashbacking to Marge and Homer's prom, where Artie takes Marge to the prom and he rips her dress.
Marge, I would appreciate it if you didn't tell anybody about my busy hands. Not so much for myself, but I am so respected, it would damage the town to hear it. Good night?
Yeah, right.
And that's, for some fucking reason, the level of respect that this man just gave her. Because he literally just says, "Can I have a kiss?" This man is stalking her, breaking into her house, like touching her without consent. Not sexually, but touching her without her consent. And he has a knife to his throat and he says, "Can I have a kiss?" In the most respectful fucking way. And it made me laugh a little bit on the inside. Thinking back to Haunting Adeline, it's so different. And I know that this book is set in the 1940s, 1944 to be exact. So the level of respect that men had back then is different than the level of respect that men have now, okay? Like, it just is. But for some reason, when he said that, and she was floored by how respectful he was, Artie Ziff popped into my head. He's in there. So far, I relate with Gigi. I relate to her in the fact that she's a strong woman. She does not take shit from her husband. There was a very... It wasn't in detail yet. I know that there probably will be a detailed essay scene, but her husband has assaulted her while drunk. But she's a take no shit kind of girl, and she's into Gothic literature. Her favorite author is Edgar Allan Poe. I love Edgar Allan Poe. Actually, like, the chapter headings for this, like, it says when it's her perspective, it's actually the Raven, because she's got really dark hair, really dark eyes. She loves Edgar Allan Poe. So it's making me happy on those fronts. Am I convinced yet that this is like the turning point and I will love everything that H D Carlton writes? Yet, no. But it's kind of given me a little bit of a hope that this book is actually a dark romance and not a horror novel painted as a dark romance. I will check in. I'm still reading. It is about 10 o'clock at night right now, so I'm just gonna read for about another hour and then I'll check back in. But yeah, so far, so good. This is a little bit of a strange angle, I know, but I have my book like right here in my little stand. I'm on page 105. So I've only read 10 pages since my last update. This book is so different. The values of this character are so different than Zaid Meadows in Haunting Adeline. Like, I know with Zaid, his whole thing was like protecting women and children, but then doing the exact opposite to Adeline. That's how I take it. In the story so far, Gigi has been essayed by her husband again, and this time it was a graphic on-page scene, and she's just told Ronaldo. Again, in Haunting Adeline, it was, I don't give a fuck about you and your autonomy, basically. That's how it felt to me. As long as she didn't touch anybody else, he could touch her all he wanted without even her consent. Listen to what his inner monologue, this is Ronaldo's inner monologue. He says, "There are many men who are raised to believe that they have ownership of their wives' bodies, and there are many women who are raised being told to give that autonomy away. And they do, simply because it's expected of them. But that is not how I was raised. According to my mother, my father didn't stand for the mistreatment of women, and neither do I." This man, while stalking this woman and essentially tearing down her defenses in the meantime, I understand how that looks. I understand, but again, it's dark romance. He has shown her nothing but respect. If I had read this one first and then read Haunting Adeline, I'd be like, oh shit. Okay, that's different. But I probably wouldn't feel so harshly about it, maybe as I do. I don't know for a fact if that's true, but I feel very strongly about that. And that's why I wanted to read this book and see if there were any differences or whatever. Because I will be honest, H D Carlton is not a bad writer. Her writing style is gorgeous. It's atmospheric. It's very intriguing. She has the ability to really write her characters in a way that she knows how to rip your emotions to shreds. She does it so well. Again, I think that's a part of the reason why I really wanted to give her a second shot, because Haunting Adeline is not badly written. I just don't think it's the genre that it claims to be. It's not badly written at all. The way this is written is written in a true dark romance fashion so far. That could change. As of right now, it feels like that dark romance feel that I was wanting with Haunting Adeline. But yeah, it's just, that just happened, and it's giving me whiplash. Like, because on one hand, with Haunting Adeline, it was very much so like Zayd Meadows didn't give a fuck. You know, he didn't give a shit if she was saying no. He looked at it like it was all a game. He looked at it like, you know, oh, she'll say yes eventually. She's going to be begging for me eventually. So she better get used to how I'm handling her now. That's basically what that was. With Phantom, yes, there's the stalker element, but it's different in the sense where he is not invading her in a SA kind of way. He's not invading her space in a invasive way. He is, yes, touching her without consent at first, not taking away her bodily autonomy. And it feels so different that it's literally giving me whiplash. This book is gonna keep me up tonight late. I have a feeling. Who's gonna need a snack? Me. I'm gonna need a snack while I'm reading this book. So I got to page 142 last night. It is the next night. So this is now day 3 of reading Phantom. I'm really enjoying it so far. I had a conversation with my husband today about romance books in general. He is not a reader. He's not the guy that's gonna sit with me and read, you know, with me. We have that gamer reader relationship, right? So he's a gamer at the end of the day. He does collect cookbooks. He loves cookbooks, so there's that, but he's not a reader, so he doesn't understand the pull of romance books. And we were talking today about them because a lot of people just think that romance books are corn. They are not. There is a difference between that and the books that I read, which is romance books. There's erotica and then there's smut, right? Like, this is considered smut. There's a storyline to it. And we were talking about it today because, you know, for somebody who doesn't read, he doesn't understand, you know, this, but he is one of those men, thank God, who wants to have a conversation, who wants to learn and talk about things instead of just being like, it's my opinion and whatever. He likes to have conversations with me about this. And again, he watches all my videos, even though, you know, he is not a reader. And we were talking about it today, and then, you know, me and Britt had a conversation. And, you know, realizing in having the conversation with my husband that romance books really do open up the conversation for women in particular to have conversations about their sex life and to have conversations about what they like, what they don't like. And that is really something that has not been really allowed, at least in my generation. I'm a millennial, right? So back in like the 90s, early 2000s, it wasn't okay for women to really talk about their sex lives. It wasn't okay. Like, they read like those romance books that, you know, you get at the grocery store, and they would just kind of read them alone in bed, or, you know, like hide them away from their friends and things. And I don't want to be like that. So having the conversation with, you know, my husband about the book I'm currently reading and the differences between erotica and romance and just general smut, I like that I can have those conversations. And I use an example of the Phantom to kind of explain, you know, why personally I read romance books. Like, I understand that there's a big misconception about romance. I had those misconceptions just a few years ago. But reading romance has opened up my eyes in the greater, you know, in the greater scheme of things, and has opened up the conversation for me as well, because I didn't know that I was going to like romance books. I didn't know that I would draw so heavily towards dark romance, and I have. And I don't regret that. But I mean, it's not something that I would, you know, in real life be like, oh yeah, stalk me. You know what I mean? But I gravitate towards those stories for some reason. I don't even know why I gravitate towards those stories, but I do, and I like them. And this book is hitting that for me. I'm at the stage where something has obviously happened to Gigi. She was assaulted. As I said in my last update, she was assaulted. But then the conversation got further in, and Ronaldo has opened up a whole world for her when it comes to her sexuality. And again, this book is set in 1944. Gigi in this book has never had the end result, if you could say, with her husband. She's never experienced that. So to have Ronaldo in the story educating her on her own body and teaching her about how to, I guess, bring her own pleasure to herself is, honestly, it was beautiful to read. If I'm going to be honest with you, it was really beautiful to read because this woman has never experienced anything like this before. And this man who she doesn't know, who was stalking her, again, brought something to her life that she didn't think was going to happen. He's opening up her eyes to the fact that she doesn't have to continue to live the way that she's living. Because in 1944, women depended on men. But it was during the war as well, right? And she says in the book that she wanted to go work. She wanted to go do these things. And her husband refused to let her. But is now lording it over her head that they're going broke. And she does nothing but putter around the house. And, you know, cook and clean and all that stuff. He's lording that over her in his drunken stupors when she's, you know, so frustrated and so hurt by this because that's her husband and he told her that she wasn't going to work because of how it would make him look, and now it's her fault. Everything is her fault. And then Ronaldo comes in and makes her feel like she's not worthless. She's not somebody who just putters around the house and does nothing all day. She is a woman who is special and who deserves more than what she's currently getting. My goal for this evening is to read about 90 pages. Again, I'm on page 142. The next chapter that I want to get to is on page 237. But I have about 4 hours until I have to go to bed. When I have that much time on my hands, I typically just hunker down and read. But it's different now because I'm giving updates on the book. But I don't know. The last time I had 3 hours to myself, I finished an entire book. So I only have about 200-ish pages left. So if I hunker down and finish it, I'm gonna try not to because I want to savor the story. But the goal is to get to page 237, and I will update when something happens in the book that I need to talk about. I look a little bit of a mess. It has been a day for sure. It's my Friday. I haven't read yet. It's currently 11 o'clock, but I have not read yet. I'm gonna read for about an hour or so, maybe a half hour. I just want to read a chapter or something, you know? It just hasn't been a day for reading. I have been so tired. My back is all seizing up in the middle of my back again. So I'm not having fun, but this is where we left off. I'm currently on chapter 26, page 238. So I got to my goal last night. I would, if you would have told me that this story is from the same world as Haunting Adeline, I never would have believed you. I just wouldn't. This is, to me, an actual dark romance. Again, I'm 71% in. And the consensual non-consent is there. The darkness in him has come all the way out, and she is absolutely loving it. There's certain elements there that just scream like it's just such a, I mean, and again, this is why I like giving authors that didn't hit it with me another chance, because if I didn't, I would have missed this. Right now, you're at a part where Genevieve is well aware that her husband is now working with the mafia to pay off his debts. Her husband's lying to her at all turns. You know, they are fighting constantly at home, and you know, she had the most beautiful thing was this like 3-paragraph long monologue where she full-blown released all this rage at him because he's going on about how horrible his life is and how he has to, he goes out and he works 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, and all she does is, you know, stay at home and putter around, and, you know, and then when he gets home, all he wants to do is have a hot meal and a nice daughter and, you know, a beautiful wife waiting for him. You know, and then even on weekends, she makes him do things around the house and fix things, and she went on this whole fucking tirade, and I literally have not, it was the very definition of feminine rage, because I know that every single housewife, every mother, every woman who is married has probably felt these things in the past. I mean, I'm not a mother, I'm not a housewife, you know what I mean? I'm not. I've experienced some of the things with like the cooking and things like that, but not to this level. And I know that like some women who are gonna read that are gonna think, fuck, finally somebody just fucking said it. But I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but there's 2 paragraphs. And she's just laying into him about all the things that she does. And, you know, the reason why he doesn't have X, Y, Z is because he comes home drunk and he comes home late. And everything, you know, like he would have those things if he would just, you know, keep up his end of the bargain. Talking about how, you know, he's terrifying his daughter. He's coming home and he's not being the husband that she needs him to be. They get into a huge, the reason why this is happening is because they get into a humongous fight over him wanting to read her diary. She does not allow it to happen. Her journal is the only thing that she has that's just hers, and she says that, like, this is the one thing that's just for me and you want to take it. No, it's crazy how this whole fight started in this, but it was so needed. The tension between her and John was so uncomfortable, and the fact that she just laid it all out there for him was astonishing. So they end up being invited. Well, John is invited to a party at the mob boss's house. His name is Angelo. And of course, Ronaldo is there because he's the consigliere, I think that's what it's called. Basically the advisor to Angelo. So of course he's there. They spot each other. She's freaking out inside. He's, you know, trying his best to not, you know, let it loose that they know each other. She ends up excusing herself to go into the powder room after her husband has lied to her again. And Ronaldo catches her in there, walks in. They do a very quick, very dark interaction. And he says at the end, like, hold on, let's see if I can get, yeah. So at the end of it, like, this is how dark he's getting now. If you don't want to hear this, skip. But they're just finished. She's tidying up her face. She's wiping away the makeup that has leaked on her face. And he says to her, "My will leak down your thighs while you're dancing with your husband. If you dare to wipe it away, I'll expose you in front of everyone and make him swallow it." And then when she's looking at him, so like, what the fuck? He says, "Don't test me, Genevieve. I will be watching." It just turns so drastically into that direction. I'm going to try reading only a few pages tonight because I don't want to leave the night without reading, right? I do have to wake up super early tomorrow, but if I just read one chapter, which is, you know, only a few pages, I'll feel better about myself, and then tomorrow I can finish it because it's Saturday tomorrow. But I do have a couple things that I need to do, and I'm exhausted, but reading a chapter will not hurt me as I'm wiping my tired eyes and rubbing my tired eyes. What a week, basically. So yeah, I'm gonna try reading a couple pages. I guess I will see you guys tomorrow when I have finished this book. So I finished the book last night. I was only going to read a few pages, but then I decided, you know, we should just finish it. Just finish the dang book. And I did. And surprisingly, while I'm not a huge fan of how the book ended, it ended very abruptly with no real conclusion to their story. I know that their story was talked about in at the end of Haunting a little bit, touched base on that a little bit, but to me it just left it severely open-ended, and I didn't love that piece. But I rated the book a 5-star. Never thought that I would say that. I was anticipating maybe a 3.5, maybe a 4, but the whole time I was reading that book, I was engulfed completely. I was so happy with how the storyline of Ronaldo and Genevieve played out. But what really made this book a solid 5-star was the in-depth feminine rage that happens in this book. Gigi is abused. Point blank period. She's abused by her husband. Financially, physically, emotionally, mentally. She's an abused woman. And she still has that like fighting spirit inside of her that will not allow her to take it. Even though she knows that her husband could round on her, even though she knows that he is capable of really horrific things towards her, never once does that make her close her mouth. Never once does that make her think, I really need to tread carefully with this one. She does things for preservation of her daughter, of course. I think, every mother can relate to that. I'm not a mother, but like, I know that every woman who has a child will probably think the same way. And this is set in the 1940s, so it's not easy in this time period for a woman to leave. Back then, courts would not grant a woman a divorce, especially if they had a child. If a child was involved, the courts would deny a woman a divorce. Despite abuse, despite unhappiness, it didn't matter. The feminine rage in this book is so well done. It's not done softly, and that is something that I was hoping for when I began seeing the rage come out in Gigi. A lot of things that I've read, they have the silent feminine rage, the inner turmoil, the I wish I could just, that, not here. Not at all. It was, I'm going to say what I need to say, and that's it. I'm going to keep this part for just me, and you can't control that. Even though in the 1940s men had all the control, she refused to relinquish the one part of her, which was her journal. She refused to allow him to sit in the thoughts that he was completely innocent in everything, and the reason for his spiral was because of her and the fact that she doesn't do anything. Will I read more from H D Carlton? Probably. After this, maybe. I was really impressed, honestly, by how it turned out, because it felt like a real dark romance. It felt like everything Haunting did not give me. And I know that they're connected. I know those two books are connected, especially with the characters, but this one's different. This is dark. This is creepy. It's got that stalker element. It's got all the tropes. But instead of having a woman who runs away, scared, we have a woman who runs towards a new life, regardless of how scared it makes her. We have a woman who is learning who she is, what she likes, what she doesn't like, and she's giving herself up wholly to that element. And it's new. It's everything that I didn't get with Haunting. I don't know if I'll ever read Haunting Adeline. I don't know. Just because of the way that Haunting kind of changed my perception on it. But yeah, I had a really great time with this book, and it may prompt me to read some of the other works from H D Carlton in the future. My opinion still stands on Haunting Adeline, though. It always will. Thanks, you guys, for hanging out with me on this one, and I'll see you guys in the next one.